Imagine two neighbors living on the same street. Same neighborhood. Same house size. Same kind of car in the driveway. One of them is quietly building wealth every single month. The other one, despite earning a solid income, taking family vacations, and having a nice life, is one bad month away from financial disaster. And here's the strangest part. The second person doesn't know it yet. They feel fine. Actually, they feel pretty good. They've got a decent job, a mortgage they can manage, and enough left over at the end of the month to grab dinner out on weekends. But underneath that comfortable surface, something is quietly draining their future. And it has a name. It's called the middle-class trap. And today, we're going to break down exactly what it is, why it catches the most responsible and hardworking people, and what it's actually costing you in ways that most people never stop to calculate. Here's what most people believe about financial success. You go to school. You get a good job. You buy a house. You drive a reliable car. You save a little here and there. You maybe have a retirement account your company set up for you. And eventually, one day, you retire comfortably. That's the script. That's what success is supposed to look like. And for millions of people, that script feels completely real because they're living it right now. They are not broke by any traditional definition. They are not skipping meals or struggling to keep the lights on. They are comfortable. But comfortable is exactly where the trap lives. Because here is what that script never mentions. It never tells you that comfort is one of the most expensive things you will ever buy. It never tells you that looking financially stable and actually being financially free are two completely different things. And it never explains that the lifestyle most people associate with success is the very thing quietly preventing them from ever achieving real wealth. Let's break this down. Picture a hamster wheel. Not a broken one. A very nice one. Smooth. Comfortable. Even comes with a little water bottle and some treats nearby. That's the middle-class trap in a single image. You are running. You are working hard. Everything looks fine from the outside. But you are not actually moving anywhere. Now let's talk about how people end up on this wheel in the first place, because it doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually, through a series of completely reasonable-looking decisions. It starts with income. You get your first real job. Maybe you're earning $50,000, $60,000, maybe even $80,000 or more a year. That feels like real money, especially compared to what you were making before. So naturally, you upgrade your life to match. You move into a nicer apartment or buy a starter home. You get a better car, because you need something reliable for work. You eat out more because you finally can. You subscribe to things. You buy better clothes. You take a real vacation. None of these things are unreasonable. Each one, on its own, makes complete sense. But here is what is happening underneath all of it. Every time your income goes up, your expenses go up to match it. Sometimes faster. This has a name in behavioral economics. It is called lifestyle inflation. And it is one of the most powerful and invisible financial forces in the modern world. The average middle-class person who earns $70,000 a year spends very close to $70,000 a year. And when they get a raise to $80,000, within 12 to 18 months they are spending very close to $80,000 a year. The gap between what they earn and what they keep stays almost exactly the same. Which means no matter how many raises they get, they never actually get ahead. But lifestyle inflation is only the first layer of the trap. Let's go deeper. The second layer is what's called the asset illusion. Most middle-class households do own things. They own a home. They own cars. They might own some furniture, electronics, and a decent amount of stuff in general. And because they own these things, they feel like they have assets. But here's the critical distinction that changes everything. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. A home you live in is not generating income for you. It is costing you in mortgage interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and repairs. Every single month, money is flowing out. That does not make a home worthless. But it is not the wealth-building machine most people believe it is. A car loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. A new $35,000 car is worth around $25,000 2 years later. You didn't gain anything. You paid for transportation and called it an asset. Meanwhile, the things that actually build wealth, investments, income-generating assets, dividend-paying funds, things that work while you sleep, most middle-class households have very little of those. Because all of the money is already spoken for by the lifestyle. And this leads us to the third and most dangerous layer of the trap. It is called the comfort ceiling. There is a psychological phenomenon that keeps people stuck in the middle-class trap even when they know about it. It is the fact that discomfort feels like failure. When you have built a certain lifestyle, a nice home, good schools for your kids, vacations, dining out, the car that reflects your position, cutting any of that back feels like going backwards. It feels like losing. Your brain registers it as a threat, not a strategy. This is deeply human. We are wired to protect what we have, sometimes even more strongly than we are wired to go after what we want. So when someone suggests investing more aggressively, or downsizing, or driving a cheaper car, or cutting the subscriptions, the emotional response is resistance. Because those things represent a life that feels smaller. And nobody wants a smaller life. But here is the insight that changes the whole picture. The wealthy do not have bigger lives because they spent more. They have bigger lives because they spent differently, earlier. The person quietly building wealth on your street is not necessarily earning more than you. They might be earning exactly the same. But they made a decision, at some point, to protect the gap between what they earn and what they spend. And they put that gap to work. Even a gap of $400 a month, invested consistently over 25 years at an average market return, grows to somewhere around $400,000. Not because of some magic. Just because of time and compound interest doing exactly what they always do. The trap is not about income. It is about what you do with the difference. And the middle class, almost by design, is set up to eliminate that difference through comfort, appearances, and perfectly reasonable lifestyle decisions that collectively add up to financial stagnation. There is also a social dimension here that rarely gets talked about. Much of what drives middle-class spending is not personal desire. It is social signaling. The car, the house in the right neighborhood, the vacations you post about, the restaurants you go to, a significant portion of that spending is about communicating status to the people around you. And the cruel irony is that the truly wealthy are often the least concerned with looking wealthy. Because they don't need to signal anything. They already know where they stand. The person trying the hardest to look rich is usually the furthest from actually being rich. And the quiet millionaire next door is often driving something ordinary and living somewhere modest, because they long ago stopped spending money to impress people who don't pay their bills. So what do you actually do with this? First, calculate your wealth gap. Not your income. Not your net worth on paper. Your actual monthly gap, the real difference between what comes in and what flows out. If that number is small or close to zero, the trap already has you. That is the starting point for everything. Second, separate your assets from your liabilities honestly. Look at everything you own and ask the simple question, does this put money in my pocket or take money out? A home can be both, depending on how it's structured. But most of what middle-class households call assets are actually liabilities dressed up in ownership language. Third, start redirecting the gap before lifestyle inflation can absorb it. The most powerful time to do this is right after a raise or an income increase. Before your expenses adjust to meet the new income, redirect a portion of that increase directly into investments. Do it automatically if you can. Make it invisible. Because if you see it, you'll spend it. Fourth, detach wealth building from visible success. This is the hardest one psychologically, but the most important. The metrics most people use to measure financial progress, the car, the house, the vacations, are not the metrics of actual wealth. The actual metrics are quieter. Monthly investment contributions. Growing net worth. Income streams that don't depend on you showing up to work. You are not failing if your car is average. You are not behind if your house is modest. You are only behind if your gap is zero and your years are passing. Here is the thought I want to leave you with. The middle-class trap is not a punishment for bad decisions. It is the natural outcome of a system designed around spending, signaling, and comfort. It catches hardworking, responsible people who are doing everything they were told to do. And the way out is not dramatic. It does not require sacrifice that looks like suffering. It requires one shift in perspective. Stop optimizing your life to look wealthy. Start optimizing it to become wealthy. Those two things look almost identical from the outside for a long time. But give it 20 years, and the difference between them is everything. The neighbor quietly building wealth is not smarter than you. They are not earning more than you. They just decided, at some point, to stop running on the comfortable wheel. The question is when you decide the same thing.